Hi everyone. I'm trying to learn Python, and I think the best way for me to learn it is to actually, of course, do a lot of research with the help of ChatGPT, execute programs, and then after that, recreate that same program based on my own understanding of the logic behind it, and of course the syntax use and different functionalities. And then after that, share it with other people, like as if I'm teaching other people. Although, of course, I'm not yet, you know, good at it at all. I'm new to this, and pardon me if I'm actually um, saying things that don't make sense, or probably things that are, not properly defined. So I'm, not yet sure about the terminologies, like, you know, um, it's all like it's an unfamiliar territory for me. But hopefully I can actually discuss things correctly. So feel free to correct me if I'm wrong. I'll be happy for someone to, realign me to the right path, of course. For those that are entirely new, please don't take this like like your ultimate source on learning things, because I might be wrong. I might explain things wrong. But hopefully you get an idea. If there's anything that doesn't sound correct from what I'm saying, you gotta do research on your own and figure out if I'm actually correct or not. Okay. So for me, this is just like acts as a documentation of my learning path for Python. Hopefully I get better at it, and be able to you know share something that people can learn from. Okay, so let's start with the very first project I've created. I guess very serious project I've created. For me, this is like you know a breakthrough for me. Yeah. So anyway, this is like a variation of the Magic 8 Ball, wherein you ask the ball like yes or no question, and then it provides you random responses. In this case, it's gonna be my cat who will respond to you, and these responses are actually based on these are generated by ChatGPT based on my cat's personality, and as you know, cats can be asshole and funny at the same time. So anyway, let me show you how the program works. So you can just type in what is your name. I mean, it's gonna ask you what is your name. You can type your name, let's say RJ, and then it says what is your question. You can say, will I get a salary increase soon? And then it's gonna say, RJ asks, will I get a salary increase soon? And then Nimbus the awesome cat says, I'll answer, but first, where's my dinner? Okay. So after that, it prompts you to, whether you want to ask another question or not. And then if you type like gibberish here, anything outside yes or no, it's gonna say, please type yes or no. And then it's gonna ask you again, would you like to ask another question? If you say no, it says goodbye, RJ. Now, if I rerun this and let's say I don't type a name, okay, I leave it blank, the name will be declared as someone who extraordinarily values their privacy. And then it's gonna ask you the question again. Let's say, will I be promoted at work soon? The cat will answer, why are you not petting me instead? So yeah, it just simply ignored my, question. It wants pet to be pet. So if I say yes, it's gonna ask me another question because I said yes. Okay. So it's a simple program, but it could be tricky if you wanna recreate this. Okay. So I'll show you how I did it. Okay. I mean how ChatGPT did it, and how I actually base it on ChatGPT's prompt, and also like other resources I've researched. Um, but yeah, the goal is to recreate it based on my own understanding, and then hopefully explain it to others so that I can increase the retention of this understanding. So that's the goal of why I'm doing this recording. So it's just really a byproduct if people actually learn from this. Yeah. Anyway, it says, what is your name? So let's start first with the very first, like on the line one code. So it says import random. So we're trying to import, correct me if I'm wrong, probably, you know, um, defining things incorrectly here. But this one, if you hover your mouse, it says random is actually a module. It says random variable generator. So the purpose of summoning random or importing it on this environment is that I want something that will generate a random number so that the responses can be different from time to time. But you might wonder, why numbers? Why not just have a randomizer that will generate random responses, you know? I think that's doable, maybe with API, with ChatGPT. I mean, I'm just guessing, but based on my understanding so far, that's how it should work. But since I'm not knowledgeable yet, the basic one I can think of is actually create a random number, and then based on that random number, it will summon or it will call like different lines among this list. Okay, you can if it calls a zero, if it picks zero as the random number, it will call this. If it picks one, it will call this. And by the way, Python actually counts from zero. I mean, I'm not sure if it's all like programming or anything computer, but they start counting from zero. Not like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Those are 10 digits. But if you actually count from 0 to 10 in Python, you have like 11 items. Because 0 is counted like another item on top of like 1 to 10. Okay, so keep that in mind. So what's happening here is that I have defined responses to carry, okay, inside the brackets, like all of this generated strings, like different texts, and they're separated by comma. Now, I did ask ChatGPT, is a space, like from the space bar, actually necessary here, and it did say no. Separating them via like using comma is already enough. And I think they should really be separated by comma, but you don't really have to add like a space. Okay, so after that, it prompts us to the first thing right here, which is what is your name, and it says name equals input, and input is actually like um, it will enable the user to put something on the terminal. Okay, and then after that, there's like this dot strip function. It actually removes like white spaces, and I think this is important, especially I mean in Excel. This is something that I wish I would have learned like like the very first I touched Excel, because there are cases wherein you need to manipulate data, you need to sort data, filter data, and it's gonna create problem if some of those data actually carry like an extra space, like space bar like this, or the another type of space, which is a line breaking space wherein it goes from here to the next line. That's a line breaking space. Okay, so please remember that there's a regular space and line breaking space. Okay, that's something I wish I would have I learned from the moment I start using Excel. Because I had like lots of problems before wherein it's actually caused by that, and it can be solved simply by using trim function. So trim function actually removes unwanted, I mean not really unwanted, but space that you don't want, and those are only space that are located at the first section of the cell or like the last section. So any space in between words, they're gonna be ignored. So it's only gonna look for space before and at the very end of the actual content of the cell. Okay, so that's how the trim function works. And I think here it actually works with same with strip. I think that's how it functions. Please correct me if I'm wrong. So anyway, if you can see, I'm trying to define the variable name based on the based on what the person will put on this input. Okay, so if I put RJ here, the name now carries the value RJ. Now, there's a different route where a person can actually, you know, um, go into. Like, let's say they don't want to provide their name, okay? They just hit enter. Instead of leaving it blank, it will be declared as someone who extraordinarily values their privacy, okay? So, and that is this route right here. And indentation is actually important because this indentation right here means that this thing is encapsulated underneath this. Okay, so as you actually do more codes, you'll understand the importance of indentation. But basically, indentation in Python applies a distinction between line of codes. It's like you're trying to declare something is actually inside of something. That's how it works. So anyway, let's move on to the next one. It says, what is your question? Now, if you can see here, it says question equals input. What is your question, right? So this what is your question here is not really exactly dependent on this block of code right here, okay? Because this part right here is only you're trying to define something, and that thing that you're trying to define is Nimbus underscore responses parenthesis name. That is what you're trying to define. But this thing right here, it's actually dependent on this thing right here. So see if I remove this, okay? I run the code, type something random. See, it's gone. Like there's no like it no longer asks the question, right? So if I try to actually put it back, see it asks the question again. So what it does is that you're trying to define something here and then later on you will call it. And how Python works is that it starts from line 1. It reads all the commands from right line 1 downwards and then from left to right. So up, top to bottom, left to right. That's how it reads things. Okay, and that's really important because if we actually put this thing right here, you try to define this at the very bottom and you actually call it here. It's not it's not gonna recognize that because uh, by the time it hits this section right here, if you have not defined it yet, then the program will have no idea like what are you talking about because you didn't define it until the bottom part. So you need to define it before you call it, define it in the earlier line of codes, okay? So yeah, so we did actually define it, and here's the definition of the Nimbus underscore responses. And you can think of this as like any legal, like any laws that are actually passed, like let's say in the US or Philippines. Um, if you read the law, on the first few pages, you will see like definition of terms. So what they're trying to do there is they're trying to tell you like before you go into the details of this law, I think you should understand what are the words that will be used inside this law. So when you actually read the law itself, you will have an idea like what are we talking about. So it's actually similar here. Before you actually go to this one right here, you need to have the definition beforehand, and that's this. So let's look into the details, okay? So it says question equals input. What is your question? So basically, after this is called, okay, it's gonna prompt the first item, which is what is your question, which is this one. Now, someone might not actually ask a question if they just simply leave it blank. It says get out of here. So it's gonna do this path right here. So if elif or else, I've not used the elif statement here, but you might see that in other videos or elsewhere. So basically, these are like control flow. You can think of them as like branches, or like if you're on a road, you're driving your car, you can have like you can be on an intersection. Like if you turn left, that's like if you go straight, that's like elif. If you go to the right side, that's like else. So think of it that way. It's different path, and you can only be in any of that path one at a time. You cannot be in all of those paths at the same time. Okay. So anyway, yeah, I'm not sure if that analogy actually nails it, but I hope it does. Maybe I'm not understanding everything yet accurately, but feel free to correct me, okay? Um, so anyway, the first path we're trying to take is if the question is actually blank, it will print F and then name. So what you're seeing here is it's called an F string. So typically a string will carry like something like this inside, and it will be shown on the terminal as is. So that's why it says here, Nimbus the awesome cat says get out of here. Like, so it's exactly what's written here. Now the thing here is that not all the time you will want to define the text completely, because that might actually be tiring. So you want to be able to call like functions inside the strings, and that's why we have the F strings. So in this case, I can just call the name function, which was defined from here, into this one right here. So what it does is, instead of typing the name of the person itself, and you cannot type that name because it was already defined using the input function before, right? When you ask the person what their name is, what you can do is just call or summon, what that name they've put, and then put it here. And in order to do that, you need to put like an F before the quotation marks, so that some of the items inside the quotation mark can still act as a function. They're not going to be treated completely as like text or like strings. Now, if someone didn't put a blank question, someone really did type a question, it's just gonna say else, which means it's gonna proceed to this next one right here. And this one was actually generated by um, ChatGPT, and I really love how ChatGPT approached this. So what it does is, you need to, like I've said before, like I need a randomizer, right? So random underscore number is actually the randomizer, or it's like the variable that I need to contain a number that is generated based on randomness. Okay, so in order to create randomness, you need to use the rand int. Okay, and then if you hover your mouse on this one, so it's gonna say that return random integer in range A to B, including both endpoints. Okay, so basically what it does is, there are two arguments inside the parentheses. That's why if you hover your mouse again here, it's gonna say A and B because there are two arguments. So the A here is actually 0, the sky blue, and then the next one is actually the one after the comma, which is this one right here. Now here's how it works. The len function will actually count how many, it will count like how many items are there in this like list. So remember, our list is actually the responses, right? So what it does is it counts the responses. Okay, so if we have a total of 20 responses right there, it will count them like 20. Okay, now here's the thing, here's the tricky part. If you actually outright put here, if you don't put this -1 right here, the random will be between 0 to 20. But remember, the first item in the list that's actually labeled as 0, which means that if you have 20 items, it's not going to end at 20, it's going to end at 19 because 0 is treated as an item. So you'll have 20 items labeled from 0 to 19, and that counts as like 20 items. Now, if this random generator accidentally picks number 20, which is non-existent, then you'll have a problem because um, you'll not get an answer because 20 is not defined. So in order to prevent that from happening, what it does is that it will count how many responses are there and then it subtracts 1. So the maximum number will be like 19. So it's gonna only pick number from 0 to 19, and you'll be safe because there are 20 items labeled from 0 to 19. Okay, I hope that makes sense. Um, if it doesn't, slow down the video, maybe count um, all these things manually, and then put a label next to them like 0, 1, 2, 3, and so on. Okay, something like that. But yeah, it's a good approach actually, by ChatGPT. Then after that, after we have a random number, we put that random number inside the answer variable. So the answer variable shall carry responses. It's gonna pick among the list of responses based on the random number. So if it actually picks 0, it's gonna pick this one right here. Yes, if you have threads. So, and then after that, it will print like F string and then the name of the person who asked and then whatever that question is. And then later on, it's gonna include Nimbus's answer based on what number was picked. And then this one right here, this is actually, these are called loops. So they will keep on running while they're actually true. Okay, or you can have like while false, something like that. So, but the thing here is that you can keep the program running for infinite times so long as these conditions are actually met. So anyway, starts with Nimbus responses. So it summons this function right here, which is why we have this what is your question. Then after that, I had to nest it uh, wi- underneath another while true function, because if I don't do that, if I don't do this one right here, and someone, let's say, types in, please type yes or no. Okay, so I'm gonna show it to you. Okay, I'm gonna remove that. So we're gonna have to remove the indentation. Okay, so if I actually do this, and then it says, would you like to ask another question? If I type something randomly, it says, please type yes or no. But then again, it already asked me, what is your question? And this is not supposed to happen because you're supposed to be asked, would you like to ask another question? Yes or no. It should actually force you to answer yes or no. But in this case, it actually bypassed that. Despite asking the yes or no, it actually went ahead and asked you, what is your question? So that's not supposed to happen. So what I did, okay, I'm gonna undo them. I had to nest it under another while true statement. So what it does, okay, if I type gibberish here, it's gonna ask again, would you like to ask another question? Yes or no? So if I type something that yes, it's gonna break out of the loop and go outside. So this is actually an entire loop right here. And then if I type yes, I want to break out of the loop. So there's a break command right here, and then it goes to the outside, which is Nimbus response. Okay. Now if I type no, then it's just gonna say print goodbye and then exit. It breaks out the loop completely. Now if I'm being, naughty, I don't type yes, I don't type no. It's gonna say continue, which means it's gonna repeat the loop and it's gonna keep on asking you, would you like to ask another question? And it will ask you to just type in yes or no. So you're gonna be on that never-ending loop unless you really abide by the rules wherein you type yes or no. And then only then you'll be asked to, prompt another question, and then it will start over again here, and then it will trigger the section right here, and then you either break or exit, or like I've said, if you're not saying yes or no, it's just gonna loop here. If you say yes, it's gonna loop out of here and then proceed here. Okay, so it's just like that. And then the last part right here, it's actually meant for the command prompt, because you can run Python using the command prompt in your computer. Um, like aside from running it on this actual environment. So yeah, hope you actually learned something from that. For now, it's just like for documentation purposes. Probably in the future, I'll make videos that are actually well structured. But for now, the intention is to help me retain whatever I learned, you know, in the program I've written. Okay. So thank you guys and have a great day.